Wipe the sleep from your eyes. Quit your dreaming now, the sun is on the rise. And by the end of the day, this dusty room will be 1,000 miles away. Once heard it said in a song, best keep to traveling on.
Good morning, welcome back to the channel and welcome to a long overdue restock. My wee online store has had relatively hee-haw, for lack of a more child-friendly term, in it for the majority of this winter. Not for lack of things to sell, mind you, just lack of time to finish processing, photograph and list said things. This winter's been a busy one. Despite the limited stock, however, I've still had quite a few orders trickling in over these past few months, and for that, I'm really grateful. I'm really lucky to have quite a few returning customers that seem to check back every now and then and find something new that they like, even when I haven't restocked. So an extra big thank you to you guys. You help keep my lights on and my dogs fed, so I really appreciate you. The store is about to be far from empty though, as within the week I will be listing around 50 new items, products, listings, whatever you want to call them, on the site. I've got a bunch of dead things as per usual, some antique kind of bits and pieces, and some handmade things like some driftwood tea light flights and some more antler keyrings because they do so well, and perfume, which I know is a bit of a weird thing for me to make, but more on that later. It's Monday. The goal is to get everything photographed and listed by Sunday, and this video edited and hopefully posted by the 1st, which is potentially a bit of a tall order as it is the last week of the dough season and I will be working pretty much every day. Not pretty much, every day. So time is not really something I've got a lot of. Yeah. But we will dig deep and we'll get it done. Maybe. One thing I do know is that by the time this video is live, so too will all the listings featured in this video. So if you do fancy perusing my website or you like something you've seen in this video, the link is in the description below. If you check it out, it helps me a lot. Thank you very much. But yeah, for now, sit back and enjoy our relatively chatty and quite short restocking video. Now you'll probably get a bit sick of me promoting my online store over the next wee while, but it's an income I rely on a fair bit in the summer months, and this year especially so. The owners of the house I'm renting want to sell this year, and I've got until the end of April to get out. Now don't get me wrong, I've been able to stay here way longer than initially intended. I was only supposed to keep the house warm for a winter, and it's ended up being 3 years. And I've been very grateful for the cheap rent over those past few years. However, finding somewhere else to live is easier said than done. I have 2 dogs and a rental property in the areas that I work in that allows dogs. Well, you're talking around 600 to 800 plus bills per calendar month. It is just not feasible. I did look into getting a mortgage this year, but I'm self-employed and I only just turned 26, so the system is kind of stacked against me on that one. It is doable, but potentially not the wisest decision to jump into at this current time. The plan over the next 2 years is to work like a navvy and save nigh on every penny, with the hopes of getting myself on the property ladder in the twilight of my 20s. I've got nothing against small-scale landlords at all. I think it's good business and I'd probably be one if I was born in the right generation, but I wasn't, and I don't want to spend my 30s lining someone else's pocket. So I'm going to work as hard as I can to get myself a house. But for right now, the options were either rent somewhere beyond my means and struggle to make ends meet every month, or get a mortgage on something small and tie myself into a place that I may or may not have a future in, depending on what happens with my career. So I bought a van. She's a 2016 Transit, she's got pretty low mileage, she's in pretty good nick mechanically, but she's a bit wonky. She's obviously been reversed into something potentially multiple times, and she's been hit on the side. There's a lot of dents and scrapes. She's rough, she's not quite ready, but she'll do. Now obviously, due to the nature of my job, and more so the tools that I use for it, I can't actually live in a van. I have gotten myself a permanent address sorted out, but it is a shared situation, so the van gives me a little extra space, and It's essentially going to be a welfare unit to cut my work-related travel in half. I work in lots of different locations, some further away than others, and being able to do dawn, dusk and dawn again saves a hoot of a lot in diesel and time. I'll be putting in 3 separate compartments, one for deer, one for dogs, and then a small living area. A bed, storage for gear, a sink, and a wee prep area for making the odd meal. Nothing major, she's not for living in full time, but I wanted to make it reasonably comfy as I will be using it quite often, especially in the summer. I'm doing the conversion myself, and I'll likely make a YouTube video about it, but it'll be a wee while before that comes to fruition. I am trying to keep it as low cost as possible without skimping too much on quality by reusing and repurposing a lot, and I'm hoping to fund the materials that I need through my online store, to save dipping into savings and my general income. I also need to shift a lot of stock, as I am about to have considerably less space. Hopefully this is temporary, as I'm going to try and find a small studio/workshop space to rent. But for now, the goal is to get a lot of the larger items safely into their new homes. I've got a lot of big goats and deer skulls in this shop update, and another batch currently degreasing that will likely be ready around early May. Not ideal, but it is what it is. The more I can get sold, the less stressful moving will be. So apologies in advance, I will probably be posting a lot of store related content on here and over on Instagram in the next wee while. I know it's probably not the most exciting of topics, but hopefully I can make it entertaining nonetheless. Good morning, it's Tuesday. I slept in the van for the first time last night. I'm working a bit far away from home for 2 days, so I thought I'd save myself a bit of diesel and give her a test run. I've done nothing to her yet. There's no insulation, I've not put any ventilation in, I've basically just swept out the dirt. But it wasn't as damp and it wasn't as cold as I thought it was going to be, so that's a bonus. I got a broken 7 hours, which is not ideal, but it's not the worst sleep I've ever had in my life. But I've got a good chunk of the day to kill, so I'm going to take Jen for a wee wander down the coast, and then I'm going to sit and edit all the photos I took yesterday, which is exciting stuff, I know. But before I do any of that, I'm gonna go find coffee, because I am lacking a bit of enthusiasm, if you can't tell, for the day. I'm not the most awake yet. Editing and listing each item is one of the most time-consuming parts of this, and it requires sitting at my laptop or on my phone, which is just torture when the weather is this good. For the rest of the year, I'm planning on just listing things as and when they're ready, rather than holding back stock for big updates like this. I don't really know how I got into the habit of doing it this way, but I'm interested to see how a constant trickle of new stock fares over big shop updates. As it stands, I tend to sell out of all the more sought after items in the first few days after a shop update, and then orders are pretty sporadic until the next update, as obviously it's only the more niche items that are left over. I'm not saying I won't do some big updates, or potentially even themed ones. I mean, every year I say I'm going to capitalise on Christmas, and I never ever get round to it. So maybe this year's the year, but I'm more likely to do a big update around a market. I've got one confirmed for August, and I'm hoping to do a few more this year, so I might end up doing little batch restocks around then. But other than that, going forward, you can probably expect an average of around 3 to 4 new items popping up every week on the store. I'm just taking a wee break to have some lunch/dinner. I've got some cold venison loin, some of it's Sika, some of it's Chinese water deer. It's all cooked in chilli, garlic and black pepper. I stopped at a cute wee farm shop to get a coffee and something to have with it, but unfortunately they stopped doing coffee at 4, so I've bought some hipster bullshit instead. But I did get one of my favourite cheeses. Again, unfortunately, the only knife I have with me is my Grallican knife, and that's not happening, so I will just be taking bites out of this like a fucking animal. But yeah, first dinner in the van. Exciting. I'm not gonna lie, I spent a little too long down the coast today, so I didn't get as much editing done as I would have liked, but I had a good day, and so did Jen, so I'm not gonna take it as a loss. Also, friendly word of advice, but if you're ever going to film B-roll for a YouTube video, don't multitask and eat a pear at the same time. It doesn't make for good B-roll. You'll end up looking somewhat feral and wishing you had something better to fill the space with. Even though the last few months have been hectic, I've gotten a fair few projects finished and a lot almost finished. I've stained some washed out antlers, dyed some more stuff with alder, made some of the driftwood that I've been hoarding into actual things, and I've made a lot of candles. A big batch of my rosemary and deer tallow ones, and a lot of random ones in upcycled vintage containers. I've also made a load more deer antler keyrings. Some Sika ones this time too, with silver findings to offer something a bit different from my typical bronze ones. I've also made Perfume, which is maybe a bit weird for me, but I've had the same bottle of Perfume since I was 17 and I finally ran out. I don't go out much. But I thought, I should probably buy like an adult perfume. I mean, a lot of women have a signature scent and I want to do that. I've got little nieces and I don't want to be the auntie who always smells like diesel and dog. But as I started looking, I realised all the nice ones are so expensive. And I don't really like any of the ones that I can actually afford. A lot of them are really strong and chemically, and it's just not my vibe. I actually prefer a lot of the masculine fragrances, but I couldn't really find a cologne that I liked either. So I went down a rabbit hole, and I learned how to make perfume. Turns out, I could buy all the ingredients to make a large batch of pretty bougie fragrance oil for the same price as a tiny bottle of perfume. Now I went with oil-based perfume because it's kinder to your skin and a lot more subtle than an alcohol-based perfume. It's more of an intimate fragrance for people who'll be close to you, and it lasts a lot longer because it doesn't evaporate like alcohol-based scents. I use benzoin as my base, which comes from the resin of styrax trees. I use palo santo as my body, which is obviously derived from wood, and for my head notes I use vetiver, which comes from the roots of the vetiver plant. So it's obviously a very woody, a little bit smoky, little bit spicy fragrance, to the point where I'd call it unisex. They're all typically masculine scents, so if you'd like to smell like me on a good day, I'm selling some of the spare bottles. They come in these little amber dropper bottles, and if you're new to using oil-based perfume, you just take a few drops and apply directly onto your skin. Put it on your wrists, on the back of your neck, on your collarbones, on your ankles if you've got big plans, whatever you like really. But yeah, other than that, I just finished some of the small projects I've got lying around. There's a ton yet to finish, which is a pain because I'm about to have considerably less space. But as I said, I'm hoping to rent a small workshop/studio space to run my shop out of. It's going to be hard to find one, but I really want to work hard on my store this year. It's been a bit neglected, and I feel if I could just put a little bit more effort into it this year, it will potentially give me that extra wee financial boost that I could do with at this point in my life. Alright, it's Tuesday again, so evidently the plan went tits up. Kinda thought it might, hence why I didn't set a deadline in stone or advertise it anywhere. I lost a couple days to working, I lost a couple more to bad weather, but I got a wee photography session in yesterday and it's dry again today, so the plan is to get the rest of the stuff photographed and should be in heavy quotation marks, ready to rock and roll by Friday the 4th. I think Friday is the 4th. I could be wrong on that one. But yeah, be ready by the 4th. Coincides nicely with the new tax year, so not a bad day to restock. But today's plan is to go to my mother's, which is actually a fair trek, but her partner's lambing sheds are made of, well, one of the lambing sheds is made of old railway sleepers, and it's like really dark aged wood, and it makes a great backdrop for the bigger items like the stag skulls, the goat skulls and the big saws. So yeah, that's what we're doing today, but we're going to crack on because right now we're wasting daylight. So as I was saying earlier, I want to do a lot more with my shop this year than I have done in previous years. One of the biggest problems I have is not having enough stock. I sell out of things so quickly, which is not really a problem, but it kind of is. I have a really strong base of returning customers, which is awesome. Really, really awesome. But I wonder how many potential new customers I lose out on because they happen to find me when my store is empty. I mean, it's never truly empty, but it's always the niche vintage things that are left behind. They always sell eventually, but they don't have as high of a demand as the skulls and the handmade items. I worry that if someone new stumbles across my store when stock is low and not very exciting, they might not return. So the goal is to carry a lot more of the sought after items and make a lot more batches of things. I've had a venison and wild food recipe design on the back burner for a few years now, so I'm going to pull my finger out and get that into print this year. I'm planning on making deer tallow boot balm next season. I've got some deer slot fridge magnets that I need to finish casting. I recently bought a ton of wild boar tusks for making keyrings, and I'm currently looking for someone to supply me with muntjac antlers in order to offer yet another species in the keyrings. These are all things I can make a lot of and hold in decent stock. Of course, I've got larger one-off pieces that I need to finish as well. Paintings, so many unfinished paintings. And don't get me started on wood. Like when I say that I hoard driftwood, I hoard driftwood. But I want to make lamps. That sounds stupid, but I've got so many nice bits drying out that I'm going to make a table and floor lamps one day. Ugh, and whiskey barrel coffee tables, that is another thing. I've got the want and the motivation to do all these projects, I just don't have the space and don't have the time. But we're going to make time and we're going to find space because we can't keep hoarding wood for no reason at all. This is turning into an unhinged rant, and it may seem like I'm a really unorganised person. I'm not. I just prioritise different aspects of my life over my store and my more creative outlets. But to cut a long story short, and to hammer the point in one more time, I want to give the store a bit more space in my life this year, and I hope you stick around for it. I'm limited as to what I can do deer-wise here on YouTube, so my channel really will just be a mix of all aspects of my life. I really like making the short film-like content, but I also quite like making stupid wee vlogs like this one. And if my online store tells you anything, it's that I can't pick a niche. You'll have to excuse the dogs barking. Rod had the audacity to park outside his own house. He lives across the street, and yeah, whenever he arrives back, they recognise the car and they go off their tits. So, yeah. Just wait till they're done, eh? Wisht! Oh, bark! I think they're probably done. I hope. Anyway, completely unrelated to what I'm actually talking about today, but yeah, I haven't worn this t-shirt since Colorado, and I just found one of these little bastards. Now, I don't know if the camera will focus on that, but it's basically their version of our wee sticky willows, and I don't actually know what the plant that makes these is called, but yeah, if any Americans do know, comment below. But yeah, they're a pain in the arse. I don't know how many of these we unintentionally brought back home with us, but I'm still finding them in my clothes 6 months. It's not 6 months. It's a good few months later. So yeah, completely unrelated to the topic at hand, but anyway, a little bit of an oversight on my part, but when I was bottling up the perfume last week, I kind of thought, shit, if I'm going to sell this, I kind of need to have a name for it and some packaging. So yeah. Could not think of a decent name to save myself. Did think about calling it after a mountain or a river, but then I thought that's so pretentious. None of the ingredients are native, so it's not exactly a Scottish fragrance. So yeah, naming it after a Scottish place would just be arty bullshit for the sake of arty bullshit. So yeah, I was at a loss, and I ended up calling it Cúflwch, which is a beautiful word, and it sounds really elegant and really nice, but it is Gaelic for wet dog. I found it funny. No one else seems to, but whatever. I got some labels printed, they arrived today, so I'm just going to get them all labelled up and then we'll get them photographed. It's the last thing to photograph, so the light at the end of the tunnel is near. I thought a deerhound was fitting, and because benzene is resin and it's heavier than oil, it separates, so it needs a light shake before each use. So I got some wee stickers made to remind folk, and I hope the pun is not lost on you. I was overtired when I was making these, and I was pissing myself laughing at it, even though it's not that funny, but it was at the time. So we've made it to Thursday, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm feeling pretty deflated. I've gone from being pretty much nocturnal to waking up at 5 AM, and I did that overnight, so I feel like shit. But my restock should be ready to rock and roll by tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. GMT on Friday the 4th, like we said. Not the original date that I had in mind, but doesn't really matter. But yeah, if you are seeing this, everything that you've seen in the video should be up and live. The link will be in the description of this video. So if you'd like to check out my website, thank you very much. It helps me a lot. But other than that, this month is going to be hectic. Got to pack up my house, put a lot of stuff in its storage at my dad's. Got to convert my van, which is going to be fun, but like kind of stressy time frame wise. Yeah, stocking show. Going down to that for 2 days. So I'll be kicking about if anyone wants to have a coffee and a catch up. I know that actually you got fleas too. Nice. Yeah, I know that I owe a couple people coffees for various reasons. So if you want a coffee and a blether, give us a shout beforehand, and I'll try and find you. Ooh. But yeah. What else? Oh, I've got a few videos I'm editing at the moment. Am I boring you? I'm so sorry. Got a few videos in the works, including a Chinese water deer stalking one, which will be the next one to be posted. So stay tuned for that. It's coming quite soon. We went down south at the start of March and we shot quite a few. So got most of them on camera. Some of them not on camera, but just out of frame actually. But yeah, it should be a good video, so stay tuned. And yeah, throughout the summer, mostly just be vlogs like this one. Fishing videos, of course. We are booked in for the Taupe at the Clashwannon and the Sea Angling Classic so far. I think we've got one in Wales as well for bass, but I don't know. Yeah, we're doing some fishing this year, so there'll be some fishing videos en route. Yeah, I'm just rambling pish now. I don't really have anything else to say of much importance. Just thanks for watching. I know this video is all over the place, but aren't they all? And I'll catch you in the next one.